Hi, everyone. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
And on this Camper Report Show, we're going to talk to a full-time RVing couple who encountered a major medical emergency while on the road. And we've got tips for you. How about you, Bob?
I've got an interview with Jim Phelan, founder of AirSkirts, which protects your RV in the winter and surprisingly in the summer. And we'll talk to Jim in just a little while.
Those stories, plus all the headlines of the week. Where do we get those headlines, Bob?
Oh, from our friends Rick Kessler at RV Business Magazine and Ben Quiggle at Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Okay, stay with us right here on the Camper Report Show. We'll be back right after this. Everybody, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. This is our news segment. My name is John DePietro. His name is Bob Zagami. And Bob, in the news this week, our friends at Jayco have gone to Las Vegas, invited all their dealers out there, and they're talking about all the new models that they've got coming up for the next year. I don't know about you, but it must be hot in Vegas.
It is. And I did have an invitation, but I couldn't go because I was finishing up treatments and getting up here to Maine. But I know Randy Murray, our good friend, director of service operations up at Pete's RV in the Northeast. He's been posting a few pictures out there. But yeah, it's hot everywhere in this country. And if it's not hot, it's raining. But we're not going to talk about climate change.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about RVs. But
it looks like Jayco has introduced a couple Class B models, as well as enhanced their C's and even their A's. So they are in a expansion mode, to say the least. Would you say?
Yeah, they're really paying a lot of attention to the people in the product line, and they've had a couple of Class Bs. They're going to add a couple more. Another Super C. They're doing very well with the Seneca series. So they've got actually got a Greyhawk Super C. So we got to send that down to our friend Don Verone down in Connecticut to let him know that the Greyhawk is growing up in the Jayco fleet, right? Well, unfortunately they started the meeting. Ken Walters, the president, get up and you put so much time and effort into these big national sales meetings, and he gets up to speak to the crowd to open the ceremony, blackout. The power goes out in the whole building. But he was quick on his feet, sent the dealers down to look at the products, and about an hour later they restored all the power and they were off and running. But he spoke very lengthily at the culture of Jayco and the people that they have working for them. And he's put a lot of time and effort into that. As we've seen, we talked about it the last few weeks with Lippert, with Keystone. I think we're at a seminal moment in the RV industry where the companies realize the total value of all their people. And Ken quoted the fact that in the RV industry, turnover of employees can be as high as 65%. And in Jayco, it's only 25%. Right. And so they're putting a lot of effort into, and they did a survey. I thought this was very interesting. They did a survey with the employees of things that were important to them or issues that they wanted to have addressed. And the company is already addressing 28 of the 33 issues. So it's a happy place to work. It's one of the oldest RV companies in our industry, now part of Thor Industries. They're not slowing down at all, and Ken's got them hitting on all cylinders.
Yep. And I think he's very correct in saying that if you have a lower turnover, that means less retraining and less differential in the product, because you've got consistency in the thinking going from the executive level all the way down to the level where the person is banging nails and putting screws into your motorhome. And you know what? It all turns out to be a better product if
quality improves, right?
Exactly.
As he said, I believe if you get the people part of it right, the rest will take care of itself. And he's been putting a lot of effort into that the past few years, and it's showing. You get a good quality product. So check out Jayco.
Check out Jayco. And if you buy a Jayco product, or even if you have another brand, one of the things that you're going to do with that product is you're going to go RVing. And RVing Today, our friends over at RVing Today, one of America's largest TV shows about the RV lifestyle, is featuring some activity that is taking place in Colorado with our friend Jeff.
Yeah, they get some new seasons, some new shows. Our good friend Jose Moniz, the executive producer, I believe this is their 12th year, and they're the number one RV lifestyle show that we have in the industry and on television. but Jeff is out. He lives on the West Coast, so he went over to Colorado, one of the sections, to show Vail in the summertime, in summer and springtime, things that you can do. Because most people, when you say Vail, they think of snow and skiing. So Jeff is going to show that, and they've got another popular series that Jose introduced. I believe this is their third year for it. It's called Pause on Board. And they have Dr. Fitz, who is a veterinarian, who does sections on what you can do with your pets when, because we know a lot of people travel with pets. And so they've carried that over. They've done that in the back of an Alliance RV toy hauler, because as we said many times, toy haulers are not just for toys. So the marketing manager at Alliance, Joe Mealy, who what used to be at Forest Rivers, now with Alliance RV, does a little give and take on thinking about toy haulers if you travel with pets, outfitting them for the pets, which is another great reason. You don't have to have a quad or a motorcycle or a skidoo sitting in the back of that RV. So we want people to look and making it more practical. And with the number of people that are out there with pets, it's going to be a very good section. So check out that.
Either on TV
today.
or online. They have
online at their website. Yep.
Okay. Look closely. You might see us in there from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And you know what? While you're camping in Colorado, there are probably several KOA properties, actually all over the country. And our friend Toby O'Rourke mentions that there are great financial results for the year to date with KOA. Talk a little bit about their expansion and their great financial fortunes.
Well, I think it's significant in an area where we're seeing sales of RVs down 40 or 50% over our COVID years. We've always said that doesn't mean that people aren't out there camping. We sold a lot of RVs the last 3 or 4 years. So people are out there camping, and KOA was able to increase revenue over last year by 2%. Now, that may not sound like a lot to people, but when you get into the financials, if you made money or you had more revenue this year than last year, that's significant given the turmoil in the country and, a slowdown in the economy, some recession. So it just validates the RV lifestyle. People are going camping, and their advanced deposits for 2022 over 2022, they're already up 9%, 9.5% for what there will be for the results on 2023. So this significant improvement. Along the way, they also bought 3 longtime franchised operations in Wisconsin, which they're bringing in under the company-owned banner of company products in Wisconsin. So there's good growth, and there's two new KOAs being built in Louisiana, in Ohio. So they're taking care of their franchisees. They're bringing new people into the network. They're building new projects. KOAs are doing a lot of conversions and new buildings and expansion. So they just looked the other way to the economic downturn and found their own way to make it go up.
Keep moving. Now, and when you read about our RVs and see about them on RVing Today, and then camp in a KOA, you also may at some time want to buy a new RV, and General RV is making it easier than ever to buy a new RV in the state of North Carolina. Brand new big project going on in Salisbury, North Carolina. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, a lot of credit to Lauren Batis, the General RV president, and it was a family business before he took over from the family. But they are building their 16th facility near Salisbury, about 40 miles north of North Carolina. And that's that whole Southeast region is tremendous. Any RV company down
40
there.
miles north of Charlotte.
Charlotte, what did I say?
You said North Carolina. You were right, but you're only half right.
Oh, okay.
So I got the city.
So it was a city within North Carolina.
Right. Exactly.
But they are doing that, and they have a lot of high-end products, a good product mix. They're investing $25 million in Rowan County in real improvements and equipment. It's going to generate 150 new jobs, full-time jobs, and it's going to generate 66 jobs for the construction workers and the indirect workers. So it's going to have a big impact in that area, and they expect 10,000 annual customers. And on the economic impact front, those 10,000 customers, I think this number is low, but they're projected to spend $740,000 with annual visitor spending in the area. That comes out to $74 per person. So I would argue that they're probably conservative on that. It's going to have a much greater impact on the Salisbury, North Carolina area.
So there you go. There is the news for the week. We've got new RVs. We've got new places to buy the RVs, new places to camp in the RVs, and places to read about where you buy, camp, and service your RV. It's
good reason to go RVing.
Right. And we've got two great segments coming up right here. Where, Bob?
On the Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Camper Report Show. My guest today is Jim Phelan, and Jim was with us a couple of years ago when he was founding AirSkirts. And Jim, for the fans that may not be aware of you or your company, why don't you tell them how you got started with this crazy business?
Yeah, I'd love to, Bob, and thanks for having me again. A pleasure as always. So for those that don't know what a skirt is, I'll just quickly go over that. If you are in a RV park in the winter in a colder state, you'll probably notice a lot of people putting some manner of blockage around the perimeter of the base of the RV. So that'll come in the form of some people will use pieces of styrofoam they've taped together. Sometimes you'll see even hay bales or packed snow. And more frequently, you'll see custom cut pieces of vinyl that drape around the perimeter of the RV. And that's what typically we think of when we think of a skirt. Now, those are snapped onto the trailer or the coach, and they have two drill holes into that trailer, put button snaps in there, and then have this custom sized kit made to go around their particular RV. I didn't like that idea. I did the styrofoam for the first year. It's very error prone. It's time consuming. The pieces blow away when it gets windy. And I thought, hey, there must be something better. I sort of jokingly said to myself, oh, trapped air is a good insulator. What if I just put some balloons under there? And then I thought maybe that isn't so crazy after all. So I had some prototypes made. These are in the form of big, long inflatable tubes. And they just hold themselves in place by air pressure between the underside of the RV and the ground. And that's kind of how AirSkirts was born. A lot of people saw this rather eye-catching solution I had on my trailer, loved the idea, wanted to know where they could buy their own. And of course they couldn't. And so, coming from a software background, this was, running a manufacturing and distribution business was a very new thing for me. But we launched kind of slowly in 2020. And here we are in, 2023 and gearing up for what'll hopefully be our biggest season yet in a much bigger office warehouse space. And things are just going great.
That's fantastic. And you are in Connecticut. I assume you're still in Connecticut.
We're in Old Lyme, Connecticut, right off 95. Beautiful place to be, right by where I grew up. So can't ask for better than that.
No. And you've done really well showing your product at some of the consumer shows like Hershey and around the country. That gets a lot of exposure. How else do people learn about AirSkirts?
So primarily, new customer engagement is driven from primarily the internet. So whether that's social media, so people talking about the product on Facebook, obviously people seeing the product in person is a huge one. So if they can get a referral from a friend, they see it at a campground and stop to ask about it, that's a big driver. Also, like any other company, we do pay-per-click advertising. We do search engine optimization. We try to get the word out in a variety of other ways. We also sell the product through some retailers. Notably, the big two that we work with now are Camping World and Airstream through Airstream's Airstream Supply Company website. And we have a number of other retailers as well. We have RecPro and a bunch of dealerships that will also sell the product for us. But by and large, our main sales are still driven from the consumer side on the internet.
Well, it's one of those products that when people see it, they do want to go and ask somebody what it is and how it actually works. And when you first came out with this, it was a winter product. But then along the way, people started buying them for summer. Now, talk about, I don't want to get deep into climate change. This is an RV show, but there's obviously benefits to having air skirts in the summer also, right?
Sure. So there are. So anything cold sinks, right? So any amount of cold you have in your trailer is going to dissipate through the floor, and that's the principle that AirSkirts work on. They also offer some more insulation than competitive approaches because they have that big column of trapped air we were talking about, and two pieces of material, one on either side. So I have a single on my Airstream, which is a 27-foot. I have a single air conditioner. That single air conditioner is truly not enough if you're in sun exposure and say 90-degree weather. It'll stay 90 degrees with the air conditioner on, but that's about the best you're going to get. Otherwise, it would be 110. When you put the skirts on, though, you can notice a appreciable difference. So even if your air conditioner is keeping up, this is going to save you a bundle on energy. So if you're paying for your electricity, it will save you there. If you're concerned about the use of electricity, without going into the politics of it, of course, like we said. But, I would hope that everybody's concerned with using too much electricity. There's also a benefit there. Or if you just don't want to overwork that air conditioner, keep it from cycling on too many times, it'll give you that benefit as well. So for everybody that owns the product, we say definitely use it in the summer, and consider it, even if you're not going to winter camp, even if you're going to only moderate weather camp, there's still a lot of benefits for you.
Well, I thought of it a little bit more this year because of I know when I came back up from Florida, I mean, we had something like 3 weeks of 95-degree weather, index of 105 to 113. And then what Phoenix went through, I think they're up to something like 31 days where the regular temperature is 110, never mind the heat index. And, people like to go camping in Florida and in Arizona. So that's a tremendous benefit to it.
Sure. And what some of those people might find, Bob, is that campers, I mean, they have air conditioners and the air conditioners work, but one thing that campers usually lack is good insulation. So one of my employees, actually, her electricity bill, she was using regular heating in the summer. Her electricity bill was almost $1,000 a month. Of course, she put the skirts on and was starting to see more benefit out of that. But can you imagine $1,000 a month on top of your pretty huge expense already of renting an RV site in Connecticut, which is not cheap? That's another $1,000 a month minimum. So there's a real benefit to be raised there, but also with the lack of insulation, it's quite possible that your camper that you think is going to be perfectly cool is just not going to be in that kind of climate. So 110 degrees, it's quite possible even with two ACs on there, they're just not going to produce enough cold to keep you comfortable.
Well, that's true. It's certainly something that wasn't factored into the RV manufacturing yet. So you're either going to need bigger air conditioners or more electricity drawing, or come up with the AirSkirts product. Now, along the way, we got about 5 minutes left here, Jim. If you're just joining us, Jim Phelan is our guest, the CEO of AirSkirts. So along the way, the skirts were doing well, and then you come up with this crazy idea of a cooler. I mean, how do you go from AirSkirts to a cooler? So tell us.
Seems like an interesting pivot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is, this cooler is really meant for anybody, whether it's city dwellers, RV dwellers, but it's primarily meant for people who are at a premium for space. And that would be, by definition, what an RVer is, always looking for a little bit more space. And knowing that we're unlimited on time, I'll just show it to you. So it is an inflatable cooler. And when you hear inflatable cooler, you're probably thinking, well, that sounds like kind of a cheap pool toy. But what we actually have here is a cooler that is made out of a drop stitch PVC. This is a sturdy material. You can actually stand on this cooler. I'll try to give you a better shot.
Yep.
And when it packs down, comes with a foot pump or a hand pump. It actually packs down into this little carry bag.
Boy,
so that's what you're at a premium for space. Yeah, you inflate this thing when you need it, you deflate it and fold it up when you don't need it, and you can put it into your wardrobe or your under RV storage. And this has been featured now on Wired and CNET and a bunch of other places. People are really receptive to the idea, so we're pretty happy about this.
Now, do you still need ice?
Yes. So this is not this doesn't have any kind of cooling built into it. So there's no DC compressor or anything like that. So you'll still use it like a regular cooler.
Okay. Yeah.
And then when you're done, there is a removable liner as well, which is something most coolers don't have. So this liner goes in there, and if it gets dirty, you can just take it out and wash it. You don't have to try and put the cooler in the tiny sink in your RV to get it clean or spray it out with a hose. You can just wash the liner and the rest of it takes care of itself.
Who do you see as your big audience for the cooler? Is it more boondockers or is it just regular RVers? But to your point, they don't need all the space that they used to use. Who's buying it?
I think regular RVers. So I think, I mean, unless you have a really vast amount of space in your RV, it's hard to imagine where you could fit a big Yeti. But we also see, just fishermen and people who live in an apartment in a city. And so outside of the RV world as well, there's a lot of applications. But I think really any RVer, they don't need to be boondocking. As long as they want to be able to not have to have a huge cooler, which who's got room for that really? I think it applies to pretty much everyone.
Sure. Now, it's also from its configuration, something that folded up probably could be going out on a electric bike that has some kind of storage if somebody was taking long bike rides and knowing that they were going to get to a destination where they could pick up some ice and relax for the afternoon and then fold it back down and go back into the city.
Absolutely. Or if you're talking about the city, they can hop on the subway and do the same thing. So it's pretty lightweight. It's under 10 pounds, I think, when it's all folded up, including the pump. And then that carry bag has handles or even a shoulder strap you can use if you want to have your hands free to do something else. So it's pretty easy to move around with.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a market, Jim, for campgrounds to rent them for people who show up without coolers, or they come in small RVs that don't have the space. If there's a rental option, if they wanted to go out for a day to tour the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone and take a cooler with them.
That's a great idea. We've had that conversation about our core product too. If we have someone that's just coming to one season to a campground, does it make sense to allow a campground to rent them out, or would it make sense for the campground? I think the answer is probably yes, because these do last for a very long time.
For people who, again, may not know who you are, give them your contact information for the company, the website, your social media presence.
Sure. So our website is airskirts.com. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can email me at jim@airskirts.com, and you'll find us on social media at AirSkirts on almost every platform. I don't think we have a Twitter account, but we should be everywhere else. And if you ever need to call us, 833-4SKIRTS is our phone number.
You keep things very simple, very specific, Jim. So it goes right along with your engineering expertise. Say, make it short, make it sweet. It's easy for people to find. You've done a great job building the company. Maybe we'll have you back in another couple of years, but any closing comments for our fans or about AirSkirts at all?
No, that's it. I mean, love being on the show. Love the fans. Thanks everybody for listening. And like I said, I'm always here for any questions or feedback. So you have my contact info, jim@airskirts.com. And it was, as always, a real pleasure to be here with you, Bob.
All right, Jim, thanks very much, and we'll see you down the road.
Okay, thanks.
Hey everybody, it's John DePietro. Welcome back to the Camp Report Show. We have some special guests with a very special message that could save your life. As you look across, you see our friends Patty and Jeff Kinsback. They've been on with us several times before. And you know what? They're Cleveland people that have hit the road, you guys, since 2020?
Yep.
Yep, October 2020.
Okay. And they just experienced a medical situation that has a lesson in it for every RVer. So rather than me go into a long introduction of this, Patty, why don't you tell us about background of what happened, and then we'll have Jeff follow up with that.
Well, he had been experiencing, a few different things. His elbow kept hurting every once in a while, and he couldn't walk very far, especially walking up a hill, or he'd have to stop a lot when we were walking somewhere.
I blamed it on the high altitude.
And yeah, and so, I kept saying, "Oh, it's in your head, it's in your head," And so, but he said, "You know what? When we get back home, I'm going to the doctor as soon as we get back." He had he got an appointment all set to go. So as soon as we got back in early May, he was ready to get in there and see his doctor. But, there was a couple people that said, like maybe a month before we got home, maybe you should go to the emergency room, but
Mm.
he's so stubborn and he just, he's like, no, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, the
Oh,
important thing is not to ignore the warning issues. And I had one. I was getting out of breath a lot. And then the second thing that really got me was discomfort in the right arm. Now, most people say they get it in the left arm. I got it in the right arm, and then the chest. And it would go away if I sat down. So I knew it was cardiac related.
But you did get it eventually in your left arm also.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought, I knew it wasn't going to go away. But because the angina would fade and go away if I sat down, I figured I had some time, and I figured, you know what, John, I probably just need a stent. It would be a
Well,
pretty
let's get
easy
back to
thing.
Cleveland, and as soon as we
Mhm.
get there, we'll take a look
Right.
at it. Now, from the time you experienced your first, let's just say, discomfort, till the time you got the word as to the surgery that you needed, how long a period of time, Jeff, would that be?
I'd say it was about 6 months.
6
Mhm.
months. Okay. So you probably did the typical male thing and said, I'm fine, it'll go away.
Yep.
Patty's nodding more than you are,
Yes.
Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
It's just gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just gas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get back to Cleveland, and the first word from the doctor's mouth after you had your thorough test was what?
Well, I had the heart catheterization,
Well,
and
no, before that, he said, let's do an x-ray on your chest and see if maybe it's your lungs, see what's going on in there.
Mhm.
Everything was fine.
Right. Then I did a stress test, and the stress test showed that there was an issue. I couldn't get to 121 beats a minute. I got to maybe about 115 before they stopped it, and I was having, that angina, that uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And then they ordered a heart catheterization, and that showed everything. You're awake during that, and kind of like in the twilight zone. But the cardiologist said to me, he says, we can't do stents. You have a lot of blockage. And for me, a lot of that was hereditary. And I ate really well for the last few decades. I mean, I ate low-fat diets and always very careful. I mean, I would rarely have any butter, but hereditary wise, these are the cards that I was dealt, and narrowing of the arteries is what it caused.
Okay. And basically, you did just say, but I'm going to repeat it because a lot of people don't hear what you say the first time. You have a low-fat diet. You're not
Mhm.
overweight, right? I mean,
Right.
you're a thin
Right.
guy. You don't drink, you don't smoke. So
Right.
you
He
didn't have
drinks.
any of those exterior, that's not the right word, but situations that would have caused you to feel this way. Okay. So you get the word from the doctor, and he says what?
Well, he says,
You need what?
open heart surgery.
Say
You
that.
need a
Okay.
triple bypass operation.
Okay. Now, Patty's not with you when you're hearing this.
Well,
Right.
no, and I was in the waiting room, and I
You're in the
noticed
waiting
that
room.
and I noticed that the surgeon that did the catheterization, he came out a little bit early. I thought, oh, he's done already. Okay, and he sat down and he said, Jeff needs open heart surgery. I couldn't do the stents, and it's like, what? I was shocked.
So you're shocked. Jeff, are you still on some form of low anesthesia?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not really comprehending the severity of the issue.
Oh, I woke up immediately,
So you
John.
woke up immediately.
It was like, oh my God, the cartoon character where his eyes poke out,
Oh, yeah.
it
Yeah.
was like,
On
oh,
springs. Yeah.
what? I was shocked. I was really shocked.
Okay. So now you don't have a house because you sold your house. You're
Mhm.
full-timers, right? But at least you're in your home territory of Cleveland. So you've got a place that you can park, and it's got hookups, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm. Our RV is our house. Mhm.
Your RV is your house. Okay.
Yes.
Were you saying, well, were you saying I'll never be able to RV again? Was that the first thought that went through your head?
Well, you do think about that. You go through a period of shock, then you go through a period of kind of like depression, and then you say to yourself, I'm determined. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to make it happen. I get the second lease on life, thank God. But I figured we would be able to continue to RV.
Well, but the thing is, okay, after the catheterization, while he was, when they took him back to the room, and I went to see him in the room after the catheterization, there was a nurse there, and the nurse said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "you're going to be fine. Once you have your open heart surgery and recover, you're going to be good as new, if not better." She said, "You'll be able to do more than what you were able to do before."
Okay.
So
As
that
good as
made us
new.
feel better.
You'll be as good as new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See?
exactly.
So,
Okay.
that made us feel better, and we realized, okay, we'll be fine. We can still do the RVing.
Okay. So you're on the mend. You're ready to get rolling again within a month's period of time. What advice? Okay, here's the lesson part. Here's the message part of this whole segment. What advice would you have to other RVers that, especially if they're full-timers, especially if they've got the next 4 months already planned out? Talk about medically, what should they do?
I think the number one thing is to get regular checkups and get a blood test. Blood will tell everything. They have a test that can tell if your heart has swelling. They can, of course, look at all your cholesterol levels, sugar levels, and things like that. And usually those can give a little bit of hint as to how your health is and possibly the health of your heart. You do not want to have a heart attack. That opens up the door to a whole lot of other things. So the important thing, get
It should
tested.
be pointed out, as you mentioned earlier before we hit the record button, you didn't have a heart attack,
Right.
which kind of saved your life, right?
It did, yeah. If I would have kept going, I eventually probably would have had a fatal heart attack. But because I didn't have the heart attack, my heart was not damaged, and my recovery is much more optimistic.
Okay. So I think what you're saying is get checked right away, regardless of where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have ERs for that purpose.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there are people that think, oh, I want to be home because my kids are there and my family's there and my regular docs are there, et cetera, et cetera. You were lucky enough to be able to walk that tightrope.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
As I see the Grand Canyon behind me, where people have walked that tightrope.
Yeah.
So go to the doctor. Call, even if it's an urgent care place, right, Jeff?
Yep. Absolutely. People told me that it's more to your advantage if you have any symptoms, do not ignore them and go to the emergency room, because they can order immediate tests, whereas I had to wait 30 days for one of my tests, just going through the doctor.
Okay. Now, Patty, since this has developed, there's something that you've had to do that you never really considered much before, but I think you would recommend it to all other spouses. Tell us what that is.
Well, let's see. I've had to pretty much do everything around here. Living in the RV, I have to do the tanks. I have to empty the tanks, both the black and the gray, take care of all that, whatever maintenance needs to be done.
Most importantly, we're going to teach her how to drive it.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to now. I did drive these before when we had the gas engine, but now with the diesel, I kind of haven't gotten into it yet.
Okay.
But now I know I'm ready. I have to
Well,
start driving.
Let me ask you this very poignant question. Is your marriage strong enough that you'll be able to take driving lessons from Jeff, or will you have to go out and find a person who's neutral? Will it destroy your marriage if he's in
that could give me a heart attack?
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So we just, we want to thank you so much for coming on and having a great disposition, because, one thing about RVers, as you know, because you've been on the road, RVers love to help other RVers. And the fact that you're willing to come on and tell your story so that others not necessarily hear your story, but hear your message about, if this happens to you, this is what you should do.
Right. And same for women. Women sometimes are like guys, they will kind of justify it. So if you're having any symptoms, anything that's not right with you, including a rapid heartbeat, definitely get to the doctor.
But I also think there's a lot of people that are afraid to go to the doctor. They're afraid of
Right.
what the doctor's going to say.
Absolutely.
And I mean, in this kind of a surgery, it's not easy. They have to saw the breastbone and open him up, so that's tough.
Yeah,
Then they
it's
have to
no
wire
walk.
it back together.
It's no walk in the park.
Yeah.
I don't wish this on anyone.
Yeah,
So
it's tough, but
if I can save somebody
It's-
this kind of a situation.
right, it's better than the alternative. So
So
it's
Jeff, you
worth
can
it.
get an endorsement deal now with DeWalt or Skill Power Saws and say,
That's right.
they use the DeWalt Power Saw, which is
Yeah.
available in this special radio only offer. Save
Yeah.
20%. Just
Yeah.
type in Jeff under the
Yeah.
promo code.
Yeah,
And you can
There you
save them
go.
life.
I like that.
because that saw looks like a sawzall. It's really interesting. I saw that.
Did you see it? Yeah.
Oh,
Or
you saw it. I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
want to look at it. But we
Or-
want to thank you so much. We want to wish you well. If anybody wants to send you a thank you note, not a thank you note, a get well note on email, what? jeffkinsback@gmail.com.
Yeah, you can do that, or rockingthervlife@gmail.com.
Oh.
If you, yeah,
Rocking or without the G.
With
yeah,
the G.
with the G.
Rocking the RV life
life.
at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you have any questions you want to ask me, if you have anything I can help you with, I would certainly be glad to do.
Great. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank
Patty
you,
and
John.
Jeff, always a pleasure to have you, and especially under these circumstances.
Thank
Stay
you.
healthy, John.
Yes.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much.
you.
This
Bye.
is the Camp Report Show.